Hello and welcome to Insights in Action with Orange 142, where we interview agency leaders and business owners to uncover the journeys, strategies, and insights that drive their success. At Orange 142, we're all about transforming brand stories into impactful digital experiences through innovative media and marketing solutions. And today, I'm very lucky to be joined by Art Rubalcava of Decisive Productions. How's it going, Art?
Hey, it's going well. Thanks for having me, Shiv. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on. And Art, I would love to, you do something very unique. It's something I really haven't heard of before. And I'd love to understand a little bit about your background just to start this off and a little bit more about what you do over at Decisive Productions.
Right, sure. I am a TV producer by trade and specifically long form. And I got into it, went to school for it, and have had numerous jobs. I was at a local ABC affiliate. From the Philadelphia area, talking to you from there. But I was at the ABC affiliate for a decade, learning how to produce stories, tell stories. And then for the past, decade plus, I've been freelancing out of New York, working for various shows, pretty much most of the networks. I worked at ABC, on GMA. There was a show called What Would You Do? I produced there. And at NBC, I was working at 30 Rock for a year or two, which for a TV guy, that's working at the mothership.
Yeah.
Where I was producing a couple of shows. One was called Caught on Camera, and it's backstories of viral videos. And just an aside, like during lunchtime, I'd get my lunch from the cafeteria, and I'd walk into the Saturday Night Live studio.
Wow.
And yeah, just because I had the badge, I had access, and it was really great working there. I worked at Entertainment Tonight. I worked at CNN. Most recently, I worked for a couple of programs produced by A&E, but I think the bulk of them are airing on the History Channel. So my entire career has been long form storytelling. And about a decade ago, as a freelancer, you have a job and then it might end, and there might be a 2 or 3 month gap until the next one comes. And I had a gentleman who was also a producer, but he was much more of a news hound. And we met on a shoot. I was producing for him. I think we were doing it for Entertainment Tonight. And his name was Art Harris, also Art. So there's two Arts. And he brought me into this thing he found where it was producing long form documentaries for law firms. So law firms with high profile cases, we're talking wrongful deaths, medical malpractice, personal injury, like big cases where the victim, their client, was really wronged. And there was the concept of creating these documentaries, like actual documentaries, not some little cut and paste thing, interviewing people and presenting them at the mediation, at the arbitration, where instead of going to trial, because trial is long, it's costly, create a fantastic documentary, and then at mediation, present the documentary to the defense, and hopefully they settle, seeing what we have, the story we're telling, which is eventually, if they don't settle now, the same story will be told over weeks or even months during trial. So the idea is to create compelling stories for the plaintiffs to get a large settlement for the clients. And initially, so I would work on these with him, and he was the talent, and he'd do some of the writing, but I was doing the bulk of the producing. When he was doing the interviews, I'm pulling out the significant sound bites, and then I'm organizing that, turning them into stories. And depending on the case, the videos can go 10 minutes to an hour. We had one where this family was really wronged by the Mormon church. And that was really in depth, really complicated. And it was very long because it had to be, because there were so many layers to the story. So that's what the concept is of these videos. Yeah. And what we noticed is that it's tough to get attorneys to open up and to share info. There's a very closed environment. And my mentor on this, Art, he had connections with various law firms. So they would go to him and I'd be on his team, and we'd produce these incredible stories, which it's frustrating in one way because you're working just as if you're putting a TV show together. But in the end, maybe 5 or 10 people are going to see it. It's not going to be shown across the nation. It's going to be very popular. But on the reverse end, like I was working on a show for the History Channel, and it's a lot of sci-fi stories. These lights in the sky, could they be UFOs? We talked to this person, and it's entertaining, but it doesn't really change anything. Recently, we did a story about this newborn. She was the first daughter to this young couple, and everything was great. The mom's 20, 21. She's as healthy as can be. The pregnancy is perfectly healthy. But then during delivery, the hospital really messed up, and the umbilical cord was around the girl's neck, and she came out pretty much brain dead. And then this couple, one moment for 8.5, 9 months, they were thinking, oh my God, we're going to be parents. We have a name for her and everything. And then the delivery goes wrong, and they give this couple the option. What do you want to do? We can euthanize her, or you can raise her. And obviously she's not going to have a regular life. And they're young and they're Catholic, and they didn't want to do that. So they raised the child, and she's probably, I'd say, under 7 or 8 right now. But at the time we did the video, she was about 4. And honestly, Shiv, she was like a 40-pound stuffed animal. Like, she couldn't, quadriplegic, not attentive, just completely brain dead. And every moment of this couple's life is, he was in the automotive dealing, he's not doing that. She was starting college, she's not doing that, because this girl literally needs attention 24/7. And it's one thing for the plaintiffs and the attorneys to say, she needs this, she needs that. But it's another thing to show in real time where this girl just vomits projectilely without warning, for no reason, obviously for every reason. And it completely derailed this family's life. And we spent a couple of days, interviewed a physical therapist, and the family, spent a few days with them, watching just the pain in the, I don't want to be cold, but the complete pain in the ass that they have to deal with that they'll never get out of.
Yeah.
And it was a really tragic story. And the attorney who hired us for the project, we finished it, we turned that one around pretty quickly. And when they got to the arbitration, she told me that the opposition, I don't know if it was the insurance person or whatever, but they were tearing up during the video, and they settled on the spot. On that day, they settled for 8 figures.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wow.
And so I say that because 10 people saw it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe thereabouts. But that video is changing this family's life.
Yeah.
Because now it is and it isn't. You don't have to worry about, they were in a row home with several upstairs, down, and they need a rancher.
Yeah.
You know, they need to hire someone so they could even just go out and have dinner once in a while. And although 10 people saw it, it was probably one of the most important stories I've done, because it really changed a life. It had a real impact on this family. And there's that really big, deep gratification. It's nice to do something, and maybe it's good for your ego. Hey, they saw this or this show or whatnot, but there's no real end game to it. Another story. But there is an end game to this, and it's really making a huge impact in people's lives. And my mentor, Art Harris, passed away about a year ago. And so we've taken over the helm. And what we find is that it's really difficult to get to the law firms themselves. There's like this invisible force field that they protect them. They don't want to talk to outside people. And what else I found out recently is that there's no standard. There's no standard. When lawyers, people of that ilk, that's their avenue. Law, trials, all this. They don't necessarily understand the impact of a video, or if they think it's a video, it might be something terrible where it just goes on and on. There's no heart, there's no feel, there's no emotion.
Yeah.
And they'll pay 5 figures for a video when it's not very good.
Yeah.
And we want to set the standard, and we want to get as many law firms as possible to privately sign NDAs. And let's show you the story that we did that made the big difference, because they're all private videos at the end. On our website, decisiveproductions.com, we have, actually the story I was telling you about the young girl, we cut that down to a couple of minutes, digitized the faces, made it as anonymous as possible. And that can be checked out. But it gives you the idea of the type of stuff we do. And to add to that, as a freelancer, the older you get muscled out of the business, because a younger producer in their 20s who's a couple years out of school can
Right.
do this kind of editing for a lot less. And there's a lot of exceptional, throughout my career, I've met many exceptional storytellers who are in that kind of boat where they're like, I haven't had a gig in 9 months, and there's a lot of those kinds of calls. Hey, you working? Who are you talking to? Hey, you working? And this is a whole new avenue that we're trying to open up because I consider myself a strong storyteller. I have a lot of strong storytellers in my pocket who can do the work. That's what we do. I've never personally ever wanted to do anything but that.
Yeah.
The check is one thing, but telling the story, there's a lot of satisfaction for me in that.
So how are you guys getting into law office? What's the marketing strategy for you guys right now?
When we had Art with us, he had connection. He had large law firms, especially here in Philadelphia, a couple of them, where he had already known people through this avenue and that avenue. And honestly, it's all about having friends. My friend is a lawyer, and I'll hook you up with a conversation with him, because just going in cold, we don't get responses when we go in cold. It's always going through the back door. And there is one other aspect that we are about to try. In New Jersey, they have these annual or semi-annual conferences for trial attorneys and whatnot. And it's like a convention type of thing where there's the floor. And we tried one last April, and we got into the thing really late. Like, you could sign up July of 24 for the May of 25 conference. And then there's all the booths, and you could pick where your booth is. And we got in last, and the main floor was completely sold out. All the action's happening on the main floor. By the time we got in, I mean, we would have been better off if they put us in a booth in the bathroom. Yeah. Yeah, they put us off on the second floor, way the hell where no one was. Right. So this past July, we signed up again. And this time we got in on the opening bell. And next May, there's a big personal injury attorney conference room. You can't get in there without walking by it. Nice. So we're going to be getting the net out and scooping up the fish by the dozens.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing, is really getting these leads. And then once you have the leads, then explain to them and show them that this isn't some little high school video we're putting together with this and that. I was watching one the other day, and it wasn't great. I wouldn't even say it was good. And I could hear that it was a young person doing the video, and they didn't have the experience. They didn't have the storytelling know-how. They didn't take advantage of the medium. They would do a video, and it was like all full screen where no one wants to read that. And then when the video comes in, the camera, the person talking is about this much corner, and everything else is muddled nonsense. Yeah. And they didn't use video. A gentleman had been rear-ended by a truck, and his career was over. But they didn't spend, out of the 40-minute video, I think it was about a minute of actual B-roll of him getting in a car, him getting walking up the stairs. But like there was an element where the older man, he had to be in his early mid-60s, and he's really getting emotional. He'll never be able to hold my grandson. Saying it in this much of the frame shows nothing. Zoom him out in rather, and see the tears coming down his face. And hey, call the son, bring the baby over. Show the frustration, show the heart. These things they're all about facts. And the facts almost always favor the plaintiff, but it's the heart. It's the emotional aspect of their heart being ripped out of them that makes the difference.
Wow. You know? Yeah, for sure. Wow. There's definitely levels to this. And I think you're right. Have your background in TV and just long form, and your ability to tell the story in a way that gets decisions, the right type of decisions, is super important. Art, this has been so great. What you do, again, is so unique. I've never heard of it, and I think it's very needed by a lot of attorneys. Where can people learn more about you, and where can people learn more about Decisive Productions? DecisiveProductions.com, and let's be clear, it is Decisive Productions. It is not Divisive Productions. That's a whole... I don't know anything about that. But obviously it has our contact info, our business office number,
is 610-420-8384. And yeah, that's what we do. I have a handful of producers on standby. I have great editors. That's the other thing. It's not just the storytelling. An editor can make or break a video. Good editing can really bring it home. Ambient music. And these are private videos. You don't necessarily have to worry about licensing music because it's not going out in public.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of creativity that could come into these. And the more creativity, the more heart, the more emotion, the more choked up you get. And at the end, even the defense, everyone has a heart and a conscience. And that's really where these things drive it home.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you. This has been so enlightening. This has been really cool to hear about what you do. And I think, like I said, I think a lot of people in law need to learn about it. So thank you for being on.
Great meeting with you, Shiv. Love to talk to you anytime.
For sure. Thanks.